You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
Have you ever had a dream to just pack up your life and go traveling with the kids, maybe around the world, maybe around your country, and just have a remote year, maybe? Well, most people, it remains a dream, but we decided to do it last year. And at the end of last year, we packed up and we're currently traveling Australia for 8 months in a caravan with 2 kids. And there are 3 big things I think you need to address in your business so that you can take it on the road with you and not lose your sanity, keep it going, and also be experiencing a really great time. Really enjoy that year that you've taken out of your life to go and do something incredible. So this episode, I'm sharing with you what those 3 things are that I think you need to have or do for your business so that you can take it on the road and keep your sanity. So stay tuned. It's coming right up.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of She's the Business podcast. You may have heard, if you've been following me on Instagram, on my stories, on Facebook, that about 4 months ago, my husband and I packed up our house, packed up our kids, pulled them out of school for a couple of terms and decided to travel around Australia in a caravan, which is where I am right now recording this episode. And if you're watching me on the YouTube version, you can probably see in the background the caravan that I'm in. Now, why would we do that? Well, we love traveling and we definitely have always wanted to do what we call the big lap of Australia. So driving all the way around the outside of the country, which is a huge country. Most people take a year. We thought we'll try to do it in 8 months. And I took my business on the road because I thought, well, I don't just want to kind of stop and let it all go to nothing. But the whole reason why I started this business in the first place was so I could travel whenever I wanted to, for however long I wanted to, and not have to ever apply for annual leave or do any of those things that you have to do back in the days where you're working for another boss. And so here's an opportunity for me to, I guess, walk the talk, do what it is that I said I wanted to do and why I designed the business in the way that I did. So here we are. And I thought today's episode, I would share with you the things that I have done and that I'm doing that have meant that I'm able to run my business on the road while traveling with kids in a caravan without losing my sanity. Now, of course, there's been moments that I've lost my sanity on this trip, it's felt like, but that's really been more to do with the kids and not at all to do with my business. So, I feel like now that we're 4 months in, I'm definitely in the groove of this traveling nomadic life that we're living. And also, you may or may not have noticed, but, my business has been running along fairly smoothly the whole time while I've been traveling. And I thought I'd share with you some of the insights. What are the 3, I guess, must-haves for your business in order that you can take it on the road, you can have that remote traveling life and, keep it going. It's been definitely interesting. So the first one I would say is getting really realistic about what you can do and what you actually want to do. Now, this is a big one, right? Because everybody's different. You might have a different perception of how many hours in a day that you want to work when you're running your business and traveling. Now, I knew that we're doing a trip of a lifetime here. This is a trip where we probably aren't ever going to get in our caravan and drive around Australia again, especially not with our kids and not at this age. So we're making memories that we're only going to have this one chance at. And for me, that meant while I have goals and priorities with my business, probably the top priority is that I'm experiencing everything that I need to experience on this trip and really feeling like I'm here, I'm present, I'm in the moment, I'm not always on the laptop and working. So getting really realistic about exactly how much you can do and how much you want to do so that you're not feeling that constant guilt, pressure on yourself, like, oh, I really should be doing this now. I should be doing that now. All of those thoughts will really take away from your enjoyment of the trip. And that means that, you just need to be clear on it from the beginning. Because if you can be clear on exactly what is the right amount for you, then you've got a framework that you can work to and be flexible with. Now, you might be listening in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear all the background noise, but I'm in a caravan park. It's probably not the ideal place to be recording a podcast episode because I've got people trying to reverse their caravan into a really tight spot. And right now they're over the front of our site, moving my kids' bikes out of the way. But hey, you know what? This is the time I've sent my kids off with the husband so I could have some quiet time here in the caravan just for an hour and record a couple of episodes for the podcast. And I can't really control what is going on around me. So I'm continuing, and you have to excuse the background noise while they get the caravan into the spot. So lesson number 1, yes, it was like, be really realistic about what you can do and what you want to do. Is like how much you really want to work while you're traveling. What's a good amount? The second one is simplify and automate as much as possible. Now, I was working for months and months and months before we left. So a lot of last year, I was making decisions based on the fact I knew that we were going to go traveling. So I was simplifying my business. I was automating as much as possible. But most importantly, the simplification process actually meant getting rid of dead weight. Now, what do we mean by dead weight in a business? Well, we generally start a business with intentions of keeping it really light and simple and, feeling really easy to run, right? But what tends to happen in a service-based business is that you see opportunities almost everywhere for things that you could do. Like, oh, I see people need that. Well, I could make that a service. I could help people with something over here. And you start extending, you start adding on, and maybe at times you've actually evolved your business further along from where it was when you began, but you're still retaining those initial offerings that you had when you began, right? Is anybody feeling like that's resonating with them? You're like, yes, guilty over here. Well, that's okay. It's very, very normal to happen. Usually when, I work with a business that's been operating for, 5+ years, they're getting into the 10-year mark, 20-year mark, they've definitely got some legacy services that are dead weight, as in they're not particularly profitable and they are very high maintenance. So they're not bringing in the money and they're not easy either. They're actually sucking a lot of time and resources. So have a think about what it is, you might have in your business. What are those real low, like they're not generating much for your business. So I don't know what you want to call them, like the low revenue earners or low profit earners, because maybe they actually bring in some revenue, but if it's almost costing you as much to operate them and run them and pay people to service them, then they're really not worthwhile. They're not actually bringing much to your business. And this is where we can get really critical with ourselves and ask that question, well, for what reason am I holding on to this? Some of the reasons that often come up at this question is, well, I've always offered it. So they're kind of feeling guilty that they might stop offering it and they've got some clients that they've had. Just because you have offered something in the past, does that mean that you're, ordained to continue offering that forevermore? Who's the boss here? Your business is your own business. And even if there is people out there who have a need for something, it doesn't mean that that's always the best choice for you to be offering in your business. And if you've got to the point where you have got more profitable service offerings, I'd have to say, well, maybe it's time to let go of some of that. Maybe it's time to cut off that dead weight that's actually really holding you back and holding you down. Because while you're using your precious time and resources to service these low profit offerings, then you're taking that time away from being able to have high profit offerings. They'll have more of the high profit ones that you probably have as well. So maybe it's time for someone else just to pick up those. It doesn't actually do anything. When you think about that scenario, well, what if you got rid of the low profit ones and, basically outsourced them, offloaded them, somebody else can take them? Maybe a brand new business owner who was you 5 years ago, they are now in that place where they're trying to start their business, and it could be a great thing for them to be starting with. Well, it's time to evolve. And if you really want to evolve to your next level, your next stage, then there's always going to be a bit of a shifting. It's like, well, to be at that next level you want to be, it is going to mean letting go of some of the stuff that is the legacy that's in your past, that's absolutely not needed, that's probably not you performing your highest value either, right? What is it that you can let go of, that you should let go of, to actually allow yourself to move forwards? Because if you've got anything like this right now in your business, then I guarantee that it, above almost anything else, is the thing that is stopping you from growing. It's stopping you from being able to move forward because you're holding on to it. You're holding on to something that you had in the past. And, I think for most people, probably the real reason underlying it is judgment, right? What other people are thinking, what other people think, your clients, what will they think if you stop doing it? And we go into these scenarios of like, I couldn't tell them that I'm not going to offer it anymore because I'd be letting them down and it would be terrible. And what would they think of me? Have you ever thought what actually might happen when you say it? That they might say, yeah, okay, no problem. You're not offering that anymore. They're not as attached to it as you're attached to it. They are also not going to be judging you that like, wow, you've been offering that for 5 years. That means you have to continue to offer that forevermore. I think you'd be really surprised how open, understanding, and practical other people are, where they get it. They get that you're not going to always offer something if it's no longer makes sense for you to offer it, if it's not in your best interest to. And they probably aren't going to think badly of you either. And they're probably not going to criticize you. That criticism is completely in your own head. So simplify your business, get rid of the dead weight. Whatever is left, can you automate more of it? So how can you help your clients to self-serve? How can you help your clients to be served using your technology and also having a great experience? Now, these are the questions I ask myself all the time. What could I do that would make this easier? So I don't have to do it. So a person in my team doesn't have to do it. How could we automate it? And I think that the biggest hesitation I come across with people who, we have an automation discussion is like, they're like, oh, I don't want to automate because it's just so impersonable and it feels so robotic. It's like, well, that's probably really about the way that you do it. Can you think of a time where you've received something that's automated and it hasn't felt robotic and it hasn't felt impersonal? I think it's really all about you and the approach that you decide to take with it. So you can either be robotic and impersonal, or you can still be personal. You can still make it feel like it is a wonderful experience. And they're never to know whether it's automated or not. And I guarantee you that when you've seen a good automation, you don't even realize that it is automated. So I think it's all about what you think is possible and whether you think you can automate. So I'd love you to have a think about that. If you've been resisting automating things in your business, automating processes, services, client communication, have you been resisting automating it? And if so, why? What is the reason why you're resisting it? And time, time is our most valuable resource. And of course, this episode is all about how to run a business while traveling, which means that time has suddenly taken on an even greater value because you want to be spending as much time as possible doing all of the fun things that you're there to do. The reason why you're traveling in the first place is to be somewhere new and experience it and really take it in. And it does take time, of course. So automating is something that's not only smart, but it's really essential if you do want to keep your sanity. If you don't want to be that person who's thinking, oh, goodness, I haven't got back to that person, or, I've got all of these things I have to do, and maybe some of them could have been done for you. So simplify and automate. Let's streamline your business so that you can operate it in really minimal time while you're traveling and actually really enjoy your travels. Now, the third thing that you need in your business to enable you to travel, I would say, is a team. Now, it doesn't have to be a big team. I have a few people who work for me as outsourced consultants, contractors. They're not working full time, but they have got essential roles that they perform. And to be fair, my business really would not run without them. So having a team that knows their responsibilities and actually is able to do them without your help or assistance. So this is about, yes, a team, but also you stepping into a really great leadership role. So rather than managing everything and needing to be on top of every task that your VAs are performing, it would be looking at, how do I communicate to them what their responsibilities are, that they've got regular, consistent tasks that they're doing and that they're taking responsibility for doing them. That's really how I've always run my teams, even back in the corporate days. I love people to take full ownership over their role and to understand what they need to get done and just get on with it without me. Like, if they're needing to come to me all of the time, then I've done something wrong in how I've communicated to them. I haven't given them the empowerment. I haven't given them the ability to perform their own role. So the way I know that it's working is when things are happening and people really aren't contacting me, but my podcast is getting published. My social media is going up on my accounts. When things are running smoothly, it's because we've got the processes, we've got the team in the background, and everybody knows what they are doing and when it's required. And yes, of course, they've got the ability to put their hand up and ask for help whenever they're not sure about something. Depending on your business, a team or somebody at least who is supporting you is something I would say is really, really critical when you are traveling and on the road, because you don't want to be the person holding all of the eggs in your basket, being the only one who can action something, the only one who has access to things, because, this is life. Life is not robotic. It's definitely not perfect. Things happen. People need things go wrong. All sorts of stuff can be happening. And if you're the only person who's able to action that, then that just places a whole lot of pressure on you. So going back to number one, where it's like, well, how much do you want to be working? If your answer is, well, maybe an hour here or there on some days, but, having even some days with no work at all, then you're thinking, well, I need somebody who's then able to answer a query, who's able to see if somebody's asked a question, who's able to take some action and either let me know or even be able to action it themselves. So have a think about that. What is your team? Do you have the right team in place? And have you given them autonomy and responsibility that they're able to perform their role without you being in constant communication with them all of the time? Communication is super important. Yes, absolutely. And having open communication, but to give you that time and flexibility that you need to travel, then they need to be pretty confident in what it is that they're doing and know that they've got the tools and the instructions and the processes, so they know what they're doing and they can just get on with it. So those are the three things that I think you really need to think about and have in your business if you're wanting to do something similar to what I'm doing and, go and enjoy life while you have it. And I think for me, especially since I became a mum and, we're entering into that midlife phase. Well, we are in midlife. Who's kidding? But, time is important. Life is here now. It's here. Like, enjoy it now. I don't want to be waiting until I'm in my 60s or 70s to start enjoying life, because who knows what might happen by then. Maybe I won't be able to enjoy it by then. I'm here right now. And, we've just made that decision to upturn our whole life and put it on wheels on the road and go and explore Australia, which has been amazing. Now, there has been a whole nother part of this, which I didn't really touch on today, but I will do a whole separate episode on. And it's about the fact that we actually decided to Airbnb our house while we're away. We didn't rent it out because we didn't really want to pack up all of our furniture. Again, bit of a time-saving and efficiency thing. We thought, well, we're only going for less than a year, like 8 months. Is it really worthwhile to pack up every bit of furniture, clear the whole house out, put it out for tenants, to have them in there for, 6 months, maybe a bit longer, and then have to unpack it all again and put everything in storage? It just felt like that was way too big a task. So we went the Airbnb route, and well, let me say it has been interesting. We have had some huge lessons. Being first-time Airbnbers, we've had some big insights, some definite things to do and not to do should we ever do Airbnb again. And I'm going to share those in a separate episode, because the really interesting thing I found is that these lessons that we've had are also really important lessons in business. And it's probably because really running an Airbnb is very similar to running a business. Like, essentially, it's an asset, it's producing money, it's revenue generating business. So I'm going to share that in my next episode. Hope you tune in to hear about some of the interesting experiences we've had with getting our Airbnb up and running, and what those lessons are that we have learned over the last 4 months that we're now applying more so into our life and into other areas of our life. So thank you for hanging out with me today. I've really enjoyed this episode, this chat. If you'd love to see more of the travels, come and follow me on Instagram. I do have a stories highlight with little snaps that I've taken from this trip right from the beginning. So you can go back through and kind of see where we've been so far and some of the things that we've been doing. And yeah, follow me. I do post stuff on my stories almost every day, at least a few times a week, letting you get little snapshots into the places that we're exploring while we're on this trip. And the exciting stuff is actually still yet to come, because we're currently in southern Western Australia, so right down the southwest corner of the country. And we're now starting to make our way north. So we're heading north. We're heading up to Broome, which is one of those places you see in the most incredible photos, any of those shots of people on amazing looking beaches and crystal clear waters often are taken from Broome. We're heading all the way up there across the top of Australia, Northern Territory, let's call it crocodile country, the land of national parks and everything wild in Australia. So we've got plenty more wilderness to come, some fun times. And I will be sharing little snapshots of that on my Instagram account as well. So yeah, come and follow me there to I guess, get involved and come on the journey with us. Anyway, great to have you here, and we'll talk next week. Bye. Now, if I asked you, do you know who your ideal customer is? More than likely, you're going to answer, yes, of course I do. Or at least I know enough about them to market to them. Or do you? You see, the number one reason why most audiences aren't converting into buyers, or even if you're having trouble building an audience in the first place, is simply because you haven't gone deep enough to understand who it is exactly who you're speaking to. There's no connection being made there, and therefore those people aren't taking that next step. They're not connecting with you, they're not connecting through to become your clients. It's not so much about who they are as a person, who you might see, but more what is actually going on inside their head. What are those questions running on repeat inside their minds? What is it that they're feeling so stuck and frustrated about? And really, why aren't they able to shift themselves out of that place? Now, these are just some of the amazing questions that I get you to explore inside my brand new customer avatar worksheet. I've called it the ultimate customer avatar worksheet because you will never, ever have seen one like this before. It is so much about what's going on in the mind, with a couple of questions just to help you get the visual profile of who it is you're speaking to as well. But clearly, it is their thoughts, and the way to connect to their thoughts that shifts somebody from being just a person out there in the market into being somebody who's an active fan, a member of your audience, and not only that, but also a buyer. And that takes deeper connection than what most people are prepared to do. So if you're prepared to go that additional step to get really deep and meaningful with your ideal customer, then head over to my website and download this free worksheet right now, and you can get started. It's at jessicaosborne.com/customer-avatar. I've got the link for you here in the show notes, so you can hop straight over there and just get it, download it, and let me know how you get on. Like, how did you find this exercise that I take you through? Because I guarantee you are going to learn more than one brand new thing about your ideal customer that you never knew before. So enjoy, good luck. I hope you love it as much as I do.